and he said he was 20 minutes away. So if we get started, do roll call, do all that.
Yep.
We don't normally do the pledge of allegiance and everything for a special meeting, eh?
You can.
I mean, we usually don't, do we? I
I
don't
think we
remember.
have for
Yeah, we
Special
have.
meetings?
meetings we have.
All right.
Gotta go a couple more, gotta go another minute.
I think we can get started.
Yep.
So he'll get here by the meat and potatoes.
You love meat and potatoes.
Ready? Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our special meeting for Friday, January 8th, 2016. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Batanti,
Here.
Mr. Brado,
Here.
Mr. Capral,
Here.
Mr. Tominello is on his way, Mr. York,
Here.
Mr. Witt here, Mr. Verkust.
Here, thank you. I don't know that we really particularly have an agenda, so I don't need to know that there's a need to approve any sort of an agenda. But the primary purpose of today's meeting is to interview two candidates for the finance director position. I believe that we discussed this at our December meeting, and we concluded that we thought the best option would be to ask the candidates to come and appear before the board. The finance director position is a key or critical position within the township. As a matter of fact, amongst all of the paid positions within the township, in terms of employees, I don't believe there's another position that comes with a requirement of a higher level of education than the finance director, because at this point, we've asked for CPA, as one of the criteria. So, from an educational standpoint, certainly Mr. Huth is, educated and qualified, but he's not a direct employee. So, because we contract out legal and engineering services, this would be the most highly educated and tightest qualified spot. So we have two individuals today, John Mudzinski and Dennis Clark, and the three of us, Darren and Adam and myself, have interviewed each of these individuals, but it was the will of the board, and I think primarily the trustees, that they might have a similar opportunity to interview each of them to form their own opinions. And then for whatever it's worth, Larry says he's at 16 and cracker, so he should be here any second. So unless there's another, an interest in some other format, I think the best bet would be for us to interview each candidate, go through that. When we're done with one candidate, invite the other candidate up, go through that process, make sure that everybody's comfortable. And then at that conclusion, then, because this is a special meeting, I'm hopeful that if there's an interest in extending an employment offer to either candidate, that we would take that action tonight. So we do have the ability to take action. And as you know, at the end of that discussion, there is a closed session, so we'll be receiving an attorney's opinion for that closed session. So, unless there's an objection to that process,
I just have a question.
sure.
Given that the three full-time staff member, or board members here are the most familiar with the job, I'm just thinking of in terms of how we proceed. And I'm wondering if, just curious, that the three of you might ask some questions that sort of get to the meat of the job. I mean, I have some questions as well, but I'm just kind of wondering how that process might work better. If the three of you might be able to lead some questions that would provide some information to the rest of us, and then we can fill in with other questions. I'm just
Sure.
offering that as
Maybe even
Absolutely.
recap some of the questions you've probably already asked.
Yeah, well, I would say typically when the three of us do an interview, I would say there's two kinds of questions. One kind of question is typically to try to get to know the candidate, to try to have a feeling for the individual. And then the second is more specific to the tasks, the career, the, job qualifications, experience, so on and so forth. So if it's all right with you, and I typically lead that process, so I'll begin that process. And if at any time, any board member has any additional question they'd like to ask, I don't think either candidate would, has a problem answering questions if they're coming to an interview. And then once I've gotten to a certain point, I'll ask if there's anything additional
Right.
that either of you, any of
Thank
you
you.
have, and then also that the candidate might have for us in terms of questions.
Works good. Thanks, appreciate
So,
that.
so if it's okay, if everyone's good with it, we'll invite you up to the podium. Well, hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out this evening. And maybe first start out, if you could, introduce yourself and tell us about yourself personally. Tell us about you.
My name is John Mojinski. I've lived in the state of Michigan almost my entire life, and with that being said, I've lived all in various places in Macomb County. Just in the city of Warren, Clinton Township, and at several residencies, also with a small stint in Detroit when I was in elementary school, and in Oakland County, over in Bingham Farms. So I'm very well versed in with the history of the state of Michigan, and especially Macomb County.
Let's see.
Pardon?
Oh, I was gonna say, so tell us about
Okay.
you personally.
Me?
You're a Hall of Fame baseball player, you
Yes.
collect baskets, or,
Well, personally, I used to, golf and other sorts of athletics, and that sort of toned down to more of fantasy baseball kind of things.
Okay.
It's none, I'm in a league that's none, there isn't a league like it. It's, you're the owner, manager, and general manager and the field manager for each of the games. And it's based on an old game that's from the 1950s. So that's what, that and, usual computer gaming, that's like a lot of people do,
Sure.
just for fun.
sure.
So, right now, I have a son who's 24 years old, and right now I've got a girlfriend and spend a lot of time with her, especially on weekends, and she's got children of her own. So,
I see.
so that's it's a good life today.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it.
Good, good. Okay. So maybe you could tell us a little bit, each of the board members has if it's all right if I call you John?
Sure.
All right. Well, it has John's cover letter as well as his resume, which is extensive, including references, and goes into education and so forth. So perhaps maybe a next good step would be to tell us about your education and work experience and that sort of thing.
Well, I graduated from Utica Eisenhower and went on to Oakland University. Merely because of proximity, I really wanted to go to state, but, in
You were
case
here
don't
for the
know,
earlier
that-
comments, that's all the state fans,
Well,
at least some of us.
Thank you.
Oakland University was once an extension school of Michigan State University, and they split off from Michigan State in 1957. So that's a little bit of history there. After college, I went and it was 1986, and it wasn't too good of an economy at the time, so I essentially took the yellow pages in the Oakland County Yellow Pages and went down the CPA firms asking if they were accepting applications. And when I got to the H's, I got a bite. So I had spent 4 years at a small CPA firm in Royal Oak called Hand Carrying Company. They're still there today. And then from that point, you either go the partner route or you go the client route, and my audit client was the city of Clawson. So that was a natural move to go to the city of Clawson and continue my career, and that's when my career in public service started. While at Clawson, I attended night school at Oakland University and got my master's in public administration. Took about 3.5 years, and I graduated with honors, 3.6, and I was also president of Pi Alpha Alpha in my senior year, the last year. That's the Honor Society for Public Administration. So with that, I was offered a position in Grosse Pointe Farms, and it was a step up, and it was it was a terrific job, and it allowed me to grow into the job with more variety of activities and excuse me, and just a lot more to work with. Unfortunately, in late 2010, I got very sick, and that it was quite debilitating, and to the point where I could not fulfill my duties, and we agreed to separate employment and let me work on myself. And after a lengthy hospitalization and taking care of myself, I'm back to full health, and I'm very grateful for that.
Sure.
Your health is the most important thing these days, and that's when I started trying to get back into the workforce, and that's when I applied at numerous municipalities, and City of East Point picked me up to be their finance director, or excuse me, city controller. And it was there that I learned how to work with the BSNA software, which I know that the township uses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a few years of experience working with the general ledger, accounts payable, payroll, and some of the modules. While at East Point, I was recruited to hire in or set in a job application for the city of St. Clair Shores. And I did so, and they hired me. And as far as I know, I did my work to the best of my ability, and it was more than satisfactory. But however, the city manager and finance director thought that I wasn't a good fit for the city, and they let me go on January 6th of 2015.
Interesting.
So
That'd be right before the 6 months, right? Probably the 6-month probation or something, a year.
yeah, I was hired in September.
It looks like September, so 5
Yes.
months. Sounds like there was a 6-month.
Yeah, well, but that's their prerogative.
Yep. Understand.
That's why they have it, I guess. So I saw something today that I read before the meeting, and it says, "The difficulties in life tested my strength and helped me build character." Well, I think I chalked up a whole lot of character this past year, because after a couple of months, I was picked up by Pierce Monroe. They're basically a headhunter type, and I was doing various contract jobs before my current employer, Wayne County. I interviewed with, I actually got a call from them to interview for this new position that was created at the county for the Health, Veterans, and Community Wellness Division. And there I'm working as the Assistant Finance Director of that division. And I've been there a little over 6 months now, so I'm very grateful that they picked me up, and I've learned a lot, but that's a big organization there. And as you can tell from my resume, I'm a small government kind of person. I like being, working on a day-to-day basis with the working trial balances. I can't even tell you the number of things that I've done over at the county, but it's been a very interesting experience. But I think that it's time that I could go back to what I've done for most of my career.
Okay. So the two longest stays there, I mean, I'll say Grosse Pointe Farms looks like a period of about 11 years. Clawson was almost 9 years, so there's about 20 years between two communities, and I would think similar in size. I mean, neither one is a radically larger community. And maybe you can give us an idea of some of the tasks that you did, because I would think that, it was certainly in East Point also.
Sure.
But those three communities, two of which you had a pretty lengthy stay, maybe you could give us an idea of some of the tasks that you had or were responsible for there.
In the city of Clawson, I was in charge with the IT as far as if I couldn't do it, then I'd have to call in help. So I learned the accounting software. I actually improved it from the initial previous finance director who did not have the modules linked to, well, frankly put, you have all the different modules for our accounting system, and they all should be linked together, so that way you're not doing paper transfers and typing in numbers from one to the other. So I got that straightened out. I was also in charge of accounting for a motor pool in the city of Clawson. We did also did a little bit of work with the county in order to try to get the tax rolls online, because of the fact that they were literally manually posting payments to the tax rolls. And every resident in Clawson has the opportunity to split their tax bill into 8 installments. That's in the charter. And so that's never going to go away, but it's an administrative nightmare for the treasurer's office. But we did get a system going where I could actually print out booklets and such. So
Okay.
that's
8 installments?
8 installments, yes.
Oh, my.
And is that just for their city taxes or all the
Just for their-
taxes that are due on
just for their
property?
city
Just the
taxes.
city?
Yeah.
I see.
The summer taxes, I should say.
Yep. And then, so
Grosse
certainly it would be safe to say you're familiar with issues related to
IT.
property tax.
Yes.
Yep. And I see, thought I saw somewhere in here where you dealt with the library.
Yeah,
So it just says,
the
okay.
Clawson Library?
Yeah, it says city,
Yeah.
county, school, and library taxes, okay.
Yes.
And also duties as a retirement system administrator.
Yes.
So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the controller's position in Grosse Pointe Farms also comes with the retirement system administrator. So I would be the one who would calculate the final average comps and certify the years of service to send to the actuaries.
Okay,
And also, I also kept track of the annuities. Each employee had contributions to the pension plan, and they were given a fair market value of interest had to be applied to each of the accounts. So that way, when the employee retired, they could actually pull out their annuity for a lower pension. But since what was nice is that the contributions were made after tax, so when they pulled out the annuity, it came out in one tax-free sum, because it had already been paid.
Nice.
So,
and then it appears that Grosse Pointe Farms had their own pension board, meaning their own
Yes.
pension plan. They're not a
Yes.
part of the
they're not a part
statewide
of MERS,
system.
no.
Right.
They have both general employees and police and fire.
Okay, all right, good. Now, I didn't see experience with, say, BSNA with Grosse Pointe Farms. Is it that they didn't utilize BSNA, or you just didn't work with it there?
They did utilize BSNA. but it was mostly for the Treasury Department.
Okay,
I interlinked fund balance with the BSNA taxes, so it worked out well, because I was very familiar with the fund balance software.
but I see that you indicated that when you were with East Point, that you did, it says learn basic functions of BSNA governmental software suite. So maybe give us some idea of some of the work you had with BSNA.
With the BSNA, I had to, do basic functions like get balances to reconcile bank accounts, look up reports for various financials. Let's see. I know I'm missing something.
So it's the fund balance software, right?
Pardon? Oh, no, the fund balance software was in Grosse Pointe.
Okay.
East Point had a BSNA software.
All right,
So I would create journal entries and load them up and attach documents to the general journal entries.
okay, all right. In those different positions, were you ever in a position, none of them were political positions?
No.
No.
No, I was appointed.
Did any of them have any management role where maybe you oversaw other employees?
At Grosse Pointe Farms, I was the manager over the treasurer's department, as well as the accounting staff and water department and the assistant controller.
So certainly you'd had some managerial duties over particular employees. I don't know, maybe it
Absolutely.
extends to discipline or oversight, or you had HR, I'm not sure, maybe.
I was relatively apart from HR. That would be the city manager and the assistant city manager at Grosse
Okay.
Pointe Farms.
Meaning you weren't necessarily engaged in discipline, that sort of things, but there were
No, unless it
employees that
involved-
answered to you or that you might disperse work to?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. If we had a task that we needed completed and I gave you the option of either, we said, hey, this is something that needs to be done by the end of the day Friday and it's Wednesday. Are you the sort that would rather brew a pot of coffee, lock yourself in a room and bust it out? Or do you say, well, let's split it into 10 different pieces and split it up to 10 different folks and we'll all work together to get it done? What would your preference be and why?
My preference would be to first analyze who would be the best person to assign the task. And because I know that I don't know everything, and the staff here should know what needs to be done, and I would prefer to lean on them at the earlier stages of my career here, if I'm hired, to let them teach me and what they do, and so that way I can manage. If you said that this is true, then why isn't this true? Just to
Okay.
compare what your, I would say, the expertise of the staff.
Gotcha. What would you
But
consider?
I
Oh,
should say that I am ultimately responsible for what happens with the report, no matter what.
Okay, all right, fair enough. What would you say would be, maybe one or two strengths that you have, things that you do above average or better than your peers?
I believe that I am an above-average accountant in that I can look at numbers and see trend analyses without having to dump it all in a spreadsheet and find it out. I just can look through the financials and try to find things that are noticeably, a couple standard deviations away,
I see.
It's things that just don't make sense.
Gotcha.
That's,
So you're good with numbers?
I believe I am.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else?
I like to I think one of my strengths is trying to get to know staff, you know, not just in the office, but also, you know, personally. That's very important, especially with a small municipality. You know, we share a lot of time together, and it's I think that's a strength of mine, is just trying to get to know the personalities and see how I can manage the personalities.
Okay, fair enough. If we were to go back and ask, say, I don't know, one of these prior, go back to one of these prior municipalities and go to the people that sat in the office with you, how would they describe your strengths?
How would they describe my strengths? They would say that I'm a hard worker, and I'm doggedly determined to figure things out. I don't give in too easily, but you know, when I am stuck, I will ask for help. You know, I don't know everything, but I'll find the person who does.
Gotcha. And then, within your career, where might you see yourself, you know, I don't know, 5, 10 years down the road?
You know, I might be a little bit of a bad predictor of things, but I really want to find a place where I can settle down and just have a you know, a good balance between work, home, and, you know, and just life in general. You know, I was talking about, you know, working on my health. You know, it's a lot of sitting in the car these days, you know, going back and forth, and there's, you know, time is precious, you know, and I feel that I can have a very good, you know, employment opportunity here, and have it be a good balance with a good, healthy lifestyle.
All right. Kind of leads into something, and since we've gone through this before, I'll ask a question, and I know some of these I kind of know the answer to, but I think it's good for everybody to have a chance to hear some of them. It would seem that the position with Wayne County sounds like a pretty good position, and good duties and things like that, and so maybe share with us, why would you want to leave Wayne County?
Wayne County is a very dynamic, vibrant organization that has so many parts to it. No 10 people know everything that's going on. And it takes hours, sometimes days, just to get documents in order from somebody else, or trying to find documents in, they have a giant document manager website, basically. And it contains hundreds of thousands of documents that are relatively organized. But there's a lot of work to get information, to get your work done, it's just it's a tedious way to work.
I see.
It's not to say that, you know, people aren't efficient, or because the staff that I'm working with, they're the boots to the ground people, and they are doing their niche work of managing certain business units of their expertise, and they do so very well. It's the, you know, when you've got, I mean, let's put it this way, the county has 4 deputy finance officers. I mean, underneath the executive director. So, and then it branches out from there.
Gotcha.
So it is it's the second largest organization to the state of Michigan.
Okay. Well, I thought you were gonna go into the commute part of it. That's why when you
Well,
said something about
that's,
sitting in your car for hours,
yeah.
that's where I thought you were going, so.
Well, I think that's a given.
Yeah, sure. Oh, and I understand, and again, that's part of the whole process, because we have met and talked before. What might you identify as a weakness? What's an area that you're not real strong in, or you need to improve?
Well, when when somebody tells me that they don't want to do something, I even under, you know, even if they're my subordinate, it's, I just have difficulty trying to figure out why. You know, is there something, you know, some people just think that something's not their job, then that's not your job. And, you know, I certainly don't want to go down the, you know, the roads of discipline, but, you know, if the behavior persists, then I guess I'll have to. But I would definitely first, if doing anything like that, would be to confer with somebody to, such as yourself, to, you know, affirm what I believe.
Okay.
Because yeah.
Well, so help me to understand, though, how is that a weakness in you? Maybe I misunderstood, I'm sorry.
I would think that I should be able to handle this on my own as far as that matter would be concerned.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right. Another question, if we were to go, say, again, to maybe the office that you're in today, or maybe a prior employer, and go into that room where you spend, you know, most of your day, and I were to say, well, what do you guys, how do you evaluate John? Where's an area that John is kind of weak? What would your peers say about you?
Oh, my peers. Maybe I talk too much sometimes. You know, it's nice to. You know, sometimes you just get, you know, half hour goes by and it's like, oh boy, everybody better get back to work. Yeah, I would say that I'm a bit of a people pleaser.
Okay,
You'll see that in my personality if I'm hired.
okay.
It's.
All right. Well, I have a few more questions, but I'm wondering if there's anyone else here that might have some questions.
I got a question.
Okay.
On your resume at Grosse Point, it says.
Farms.
Or Grosse Point Farms, I'm sorry. They worked with the city manager and Grosse Point Consortium to be self-funded for employee and retiree
Yes.
health insurance, which considerably reduced growth of healthcare costs.
Yes. The Grosse Points have a consortium with Blue Cross to pool their risk. And at that point in time, we were just paying like the regular Blue Cross rates. And we decided to become a self-funded consortium where we would have like, you know, the high umbrella, the low umbrella risks, as well as, and then the rest of the, you know, the smaller, you know, claims would go under the, you know, just out of pocket, basically. So by eliminating a lot of you know, padding on of claims, the consortium saved quite a bit of money over you know, the past few years that I was there. You know, it's just simple, you know, mathematics, but also it was also a very it was a very old agreement. It's my understanding that agreement can't be duplicated, unfortunately. But the self-funding, I do believe that in East Point, the finance director, Randy Blum, was working on that as well, with getting self-funded through Blue Cross.
Just to follow up on that question, if I may.
Yes.
What was your role in that? You said you worked with it. Was it, you did the numbers, or
my-
was your idea, or?
My role with it was to work with the other finance directors in the consortium to agree to go to the fully self-funded model, as opposed to, that's pretty much it. And then, after we agreed, then the city managers got the not legislation, but the city managers, you know, signed the documents, I should
Did
say.
you run all the numbers for that, for all them?
No, that was, the numbers were done by an organization called Cornerstone Benefits. Mark Manquin is the director of the firm, and I am very, very skeptical of consultants and people who put spreadsheets together and say, hey, this will save you money, this will save you money. He's one of the few people that I've never caught him in any sort of, embellishment or any sort of exaggeration. Good consultants are few and far between, and he was somebody that I know, professionally and personally, through my employment with Grosse Pointe Farms. I mean, I had other, when we first had the 2001 or 2008, 2009, where people were bonding out for the retiree health care, I was firmly against that. And I was the only dissenting vote out of the 5 communities. The company came in and, of course, took us over to the yacht club and blah, 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 $1,000 suits. And it just didn't make any sense, what they were proposing. So if it sounds too good to be true, probably is.
That's how Detroit ended up in bankruptcy with their swaps. Sort of the same thing, different procedure, but same.
All right.
Any other board members have any questions?
Will you do our FanDuel baseball lineup for us next summer?
That may be a byproduct of,
Couple of questions.
Sure.
sure.
Mr. Mudzinski, I'm sure you know, it's a small department. There's a finance director and 2 individuals, so very hands-on. I'm sure that was discussed in your other interview. So the individual that would take this responsibility would literally be, day-to-day, hands-on process. For example, this individual works with the grant programs that the township may be involved in. Have you had any exposure to grants and the monitoring of grants or the reporting of such and dealing with grants?
I have dealt a little bit with grants, but it's mostly like CDBG type grants. I think
Okay.
none similar to that.
So the other thing that I mentioned was the day-to-day. So I know that you're familiar with BS&A software, but literally this individual does the input for a certain portion of it. So have you had, when you worked with it, in many instances, we're managers or administrators, but possibly not the hands-on person. So one of the things that I'm wondering about is, do you have hands-on experience? I mean, if you were to sit with this group of individuals and there's really a division of labor, there are some things that the finance manager literally does. So I'm just wondering maybe a little bit about that aspect of your experience, literal hands-on.
The hands-on experience is what I described when I posted journal entries and attached documents earlier in the interview. I didn't have a lot of experience doing that, but I have. That's,
Okay. And we do, well, obviously, the BS&A program handles our payroll, so we're responsible for, payroll processing, W-2s, 1099s. Is that correct, gentlemen? Right. And
I would akin the size of an organization and the finance department close to the one I had in the city of Clawson, where I was the person, in the finance office, and I had treasury persons and payroll clerk and handle those issues.
okay. All right, but, okay. So I guess it's just that we want to be sure that, I believe we want to be sure that the person is close enough to the work, if you see what I'm saying.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
in this
very
kind of an
much so.
environment. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Glenn sort of prepared a little checklist before he left to answer your question,
Right,
so.
I'm looking
I-
at it.
Oh, you have it too?
I do.
All right.
Well, it was worse, I didn't want to go down, it's 40 items, I didn't want to go down the whole list.
Oh, all right. So in our, obviously, he prepares and loads the journal entries, prepares all the monthly income statements, he does the budget. When we say hands-on, it's hands-on, meat, potatoes, you know. That's, the finance director does all that.
Yes.
Is that your forte? Is that, you know? what-
Very much so. When I was in Grosse Pointe Farms, it was pretty much that way as well. I checked the work of, you know, like the water department and the tax to see that they inputted their things correctly. But I also did all the bank reconciliations, did, you know, monthly reports, quarterly reports, you know, whatever was necessary, whatever was asked for.
And so here we have, you know, in your other positions, you were the controller, finance director, and the treasurer. But in the township, those
Oh.
duties are completely
Right.
split up.
Those are pretty much I was given the titles. Mary Milich and she was given the title of office manager, and she pretty much ran the treasury department.
Yeah, in a township, we have these separation of
Yes.
duties.
Absolutely.
But one of the things, you're familiar with looking at your resume, talking with Glenn, he was impressed that you knew about, that you did most of did you actually do the hands-on with all of the federal reporting, the CAFRs, the Act 51? And he was pretty
Yes.
impressed that you knew what CMP Express was. He was very
Contracted pay-
impressed.
Yes, yeah. Yes, it's all online. CMP Express is, you know, the website for, you know, getting your information for your, you know, gas and weight taxes and all that good state payments.
So you've done the F-65s and
I've done F-65, Act 51 reports.
the UIA 1028 report? I don't know what that is.
It's
Unemployment
insurance.
insurance.
Oh, all right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't do those.
I do it.
Oh, all right. We'll take that off the list.
No, I don't do it here, I've done it for my own.
Oh,
I mean, it's-
okay,
Right.
It's
okay.
reporting, if you have
You know,
employees, you have to do it.
So you've done like the
I-
MIOSHA
I
reports?
haven't done the unemployment report in a long time. But,
And then, part of his job is to, some of the job is a human resources function. For example, administering the group health and life and the disability insurance. Do you have
Yes.
experience with that?
That was
Well, the health insurance,
the health
obviously.
insurance, life, disability. That pretty much ran through the assistant city manager's work, so it'll be something new to work on.
Yep, this position, that would be part of your
Sure.
job, making sure that pretty much that part of the job is people bring the claims or they go see Ken. I don't quite know the process there, but I know that Glenn is the go-to person between the insurance companies and you know, the disability and the basic, we have basic, I don't know if you're familiar with basic. That's like, we send them like co-pays and things and it gets paid out of that. You know, some of the health
I haven't
insurance
worked too much
co-pays.
with you know, workers' comp claims.
All right. And you have
Something to
knowledge
learn.
of administering pensions, obviously.
Sure.
Right, we do that. You know how to calculate the retirement benefits, that's his job.
Yeah.
Prepare the data. Do you have any experience in administrating the 457 plan? The 403 plans, whatever, same thing.
Administering is in, like, setting up people's deductions and things
Yeah,
like that.
Yep,
Not directly, but I don't think that would be an issue.
all right. And obviously, you know,
I mean,
the
I
other
know
stuff,
that- yeah.
all the IRS stuff
Right.
you've had
Right,
experience with.
yes, the reporting of the tax collections and other reports. One thing I don't have experience with is the dashboard. So I imagine that probably falls under my jurisdiction, so that'd be something new to learn, you know?
What I understand, talking with Glenn, it's just putting in the numbers in the dashboard from
I think BSNA yeah,
From-
plays a role in that.
We contract with a company that
Oh.
does the,
Oh,
There we go. I think that we supply the numbers
Right.
from our,
Who's the contractor? I bet you I can.
Munetrics.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yep. That was on the tip of my tongue. A lot of municipalities use them.
All right, any other questions?
How many different banks have you worked with throughout your career? Has every municipality dealt
Oh,
with a different
gosh.
bank?
I've worked with a lot of banks as far as, you know, through all the mergers and such. Anything from, you know, a small community bank to, you know, JP Morgan.
I
Just
don't
a
know about
little-
those guys.
Yeah, JP
Yeah,
Morgan, I don't know, shady.
I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I actually met Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan.
nice.
Yeah, down at the DAC, they were having a big event. I wanted to ask him a question, but I don't think he would have answered honestly.
Did you find that the bank's business process was pretty similar? Was there a big difference in dealing with a small, community-based bank versus a larger bank?
My experience in St. Clair Shores with, what's the name of the main bank, First State,
Yeah, First State.
First State?
had a lot of difficulties with them. They did have a very nice website where we were able to shift monies between accounts, but the process of getting things up and running for me was less than, as far as, you know, getting things up and running, giving me my passwords. I mean, I was there for over 2 months before I got my passwords and the account set up, so I was very disappointed with that experience.
Well, you've worked through IT through some growing pains, that's for sure. I
Sure.
mean, from your beginning of your career till now, things have changed pretty significantly.
Astronomical.
So you're fine with, this position being, for lack of just a grunt position, I guess would be, you know, a lot of hands-on, there's not a lot of people to delegate the work.
That's one of the things that my current boss complains about, that I'm too much into the weeds, so, you know.
Oh, there's
it's-
definite job, what people do in that department.
Sure.
You know, we have a payroll clerk, and then there's accounts payable lady, and then Glenn pretty much handled most everything else, I believe. As far as like moving the funds around and that, the general ledger, and, being my check and balance, as the treasurer, we work well with the finance department, making sure our distributions are right, because if you don't,
Absolutely.
if you don't do that right from the get-go, later on, of course, it can become a problem if you're looking for $5 or $10, right? So every period, we make sure that,
The balance,
we balance with finance and before we ship
Absolutely.
anything out.
yeah.
And that makes our settlement go very, very easy normally.
If you have everything set up, then
Until
it should go
assessing,
easy.
till assessing puts something in there
Well.
that, you weren't ready for, but which always seems to happen.
It's nature of the business.
Yep.
Any other questions from board members?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
Can you tell me what the most significant change that you championed in brought about in an organization?
Champion organization. I would have to say that both in Clausen and Grosse Pointe Farms, I improved the efficiency of the accounting system by having, well, as I said before about, having the modules all linked together with each other and such. When I got to Grosse Pointe Farms, I was shocked to see that they were farther behind in technology as Clausen. And after being there for about 9 months, I got them onto the Windows version of the accounting system. That's how bad they were in the year 2000, because everybody was afraid of the year 2000 for some reason. Like the water was going to run backwards or something. But
Okay, can you tell me about it? Thank you very much. Can you tell me about a time where you were asked to perform a task you did not agree with, and how you addressed it, how you address your concerns to management?
gosh. I'm sorry, I'm,
Drawing a blank there?
yeah.
Okay.
Give me a minute or two if there's
Okay.
another question.
And it's very similar to the first question I asked you, but can you tell us about an innovative solution or process you developed, again, championed, to a non-traditional problem?
Let's see. Well, one of the things that we did in Grosse Pointe Farms was to, or excuse me, I talked about that earlier in the city of Clausen, with the tax rolls. I'm trying to.
The spreadsheet
Okay.
you're working on now would
For our-
answer that question.
Pardon?
The spreadsheet that you were talking about
Yeah.
with us would probably be a good answer for
Right.
that question.
All
The
the
crazy spreadsheet that you're doing.
Right.
That's right, I mean,
Right now.
sometimes you draw blanks, that's
Yeah.
not a problem,
Yeah.
I understand. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Do you have any questions for us?
Really don't have any questions. I've been watching some of the replays of the meetings and such, just get a feel of how the board works together. And it seems like you work very well and do not, it's not like some other, other organizations that might, air things out on the air, so to speak. And that's the sign of a good board, is that when, you can agree to disagree and, obviously, you can, no board votes, something zero, so. That's a good thing to see, and it's something that that's a very big selling point.
Yes, I have one other question. Currently, you're employed, so what would be the date that you think?
Well,
Would it be a standard 2 weeks?
I would
from-
certainly give them at least 2 weeks' notice to, well, they won't find a replacement in that period of time, but I'm sure that a lot of the work that I had done at the county the first 3 months was a lot of work that pretty much nobody else could do. I mean, I had the county has 200 business units and my budget had 2,200 lines of accounts, basically. You know, so that was that was something that needed to be done. And now I've set it up where, you know, they can simply put in additional numbers to update the budgets and other, these are things that somebody else could take over, essentially. One thing I was thinking about championing something, there was 2 things came to mind. When I got to Grosse Pointe Farms, I found out that they were, I think I said it before, technically behind Clausen. And one of them had to do with something as simple as a telephone system. The detectives could not hear people over the phones in their offices because of the generator, the air conditioning it was on in the summertime. And essentially, I along with one of my staff, I took bids for the AT&T and another corporation, and got a whole new set of you know, not only you know, the telephone system, but we also eventually got, you know, citywide email as well. It was you know, change takes time. They also didn't have a records retention schedule either, so it's very important because, you know, we don't need AP vouchers from the 1990s or anything like that sitting in boxes rotting. You know, we should have a organized retention schedule. Because, you know, paper takes up space. There's a couple of things that I did.
Thanks.
I'm sure I'll be sitting in my chair thinking of something else, but, you know, it is what it is.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, well, certainly thank you for coming in, and I think unless the board has an objection, I would invite the other candidate to come in. If that's okay. Do you mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it just me, or is that a long time to ask someone to stay in there? Maybe, is there some other way we can do it, or is that, am I just missing? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
What time did you guys start?
I'm sorry?
I came at 6:30, so.
It was before that, right?
Well, we'll interview the other candidate, and then,
So,
if you'd like to, yeah, I mean, from.
This is an open meeting.
Yeah, it is an open meeting from the deliberative process. No, I didn't ask you. What I suggested was difficult when you're being interviewed to have the other person, so each candidate agreed to leave while the
Hey,
other was
Jim,
interviewed, that was
I
all.
think the sound's turned up. We're getting a lot of echoing and feedback.
Yeah, the mics are pretty hot.
I'm gonna, 1 minute, okay, before we start.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry I'm late, Mr. Supervisor.
No, that's right. That happens.
How far was I behind?
Is that better?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
it's a little better.
We'd rather not sit.
Not you.
Me? Oh, I broke tons of laws
Stood up
again
here
here, so.
and answered questions for the notes
So did
up.
I. How much did you beat me? Because I came from Mountain in 6 minutes.
Oh, really?
10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah,
10 minutes? No, that's not
yeah.
too bad.
Did you get cut off by white dot journey by chance or not?
I don't know.
Might have been me.
I will give the other board members a few minutes to take care of nature.
None of our wives are really gonna buy the fact that we had a municipal meeting on a Friday night.
That's why, that's the only reason why we're filming
Oh,
this.
yeah.
But I told, well, I shouldn't say.
Alibi.
Told mine that Ken was gonna buy dinner after. so
Oh, there you go. That's not a bad deal.
Me, did you say?
I did say
Yeah,
Ken.
well, that she already knew that was, yeah. You were better off saying that you had a meeting. At least if you want to be believed.
Okay. Excuse me.
We could fill the time by talking about the craziest thing we've ever seen in the city of Warren, or.
We don't have all night.
That'd take a lot of thinking, to be truthful.
Yeah.
I said if I retire, whenever I leave Warren, maybe I'll write a book, but I don't think they'll
Yeah.
make me classify it as fiction.
Right.
Well, you've been there a long time too, so you know.
I went to elementary school there, right? Yeah, but no, doing legal work, yeah.
Wow. So, Monday is the big college football playoff, which coincides nicely with our meeting.
I tell you,
We're not
I'm
moving
with you.
it
I
to
just
Tuesday?
have no desire to watch it.
No?
I'm still mad.
Yeah, but it won't be on.
It's 8:30.
I know, but by the time they drag it out, it'll be 9 o'clock.
It could be.
Yeah,
It's
that
it'll be a 4-hour game.
They've been going long, you're right.
All right. Well, if the board is good, we have our next candidate here, Mr. Dennis Clark. So, Mr. Clark, if it's okay, we'd invite you up to the podium and ask you if you could start out and maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Dennis Clark, like you just said. I live over here close in Clinton Township at 16 and Harper. I got my CPA certificate back in 1977, I want to say. I've been a high school football, basketball, and softball, baseball referee for the last 40 years. And I can still move a little bit, not as good as I used to, and sometimes I get stiff standing up, but when I can move up and down the field or something like that, and I'm fine, but when I'm standing still, sometimes my legs get a little stiff, so.
Gotcha.
I went to Western Michigan University. I don't know what else you want to know about it.
Oh, no, that's all right, yeah. So, if you could, then, you kind of told us a little bit about yourself personally. You mentioned that, you referee, high school sports, anything else, any other personal, how we get to know who you are personally.
Well, my kids went to L'Anse Creuse. My first daughter went to L'Anse Creuse North, and then with the change in the districts, my next 3 children graduated from right behind here, L'Anse Creuse High School, and they're involved in sports and the band and stuff like that. And Kate was on the dance team, and I guess I screwed up your having this meeting before Christmas because my daughter invited us all down to New Orleans to see the Saints play the Lions on Monday night. And that was a Friday night we were gone. I was already down there and stuff like that, so I apologize for that.
Oh, that's all right.
And
Much rather be in New Orleans.
Yeah, I can't blame you, yeah. And so maybe tell us a little bit, you mentioned your education, maybe walk us through that and your work experience, I guess, post-education.
well, I started out right down the street. I started out at Mount Clemens, St. Louis, or whatever you want to call it now. I went there for 12 years. I graduated and then went on to Macomb College and went there for 2 years and played sports. I was involved in the soccer and the basketball and the baseball programs there. And then I moved on to Western Michigan I jammed 2 years into 3. And then I graduated from there, and I came out and took my first 12 years of working after graduation from college. I was in public accounting. I was with Skillman Zeilish. I was with for about 5 or 6 years, and some of them they did municipal auditing, and we did I was involved with the Township of Shelby and the Township of Macomb. Then we had a real small township up north called Wise Township, where it was funny because the clerk up there was a pig farmer, and they kept the records at his house. So I'd go over there and be working on records. Anytime I had a question, I had to walk back into the barn, push the pigs away, and say, "Sir," and we'd get that straightened out. And then from there, I went over to at 15 in Harper. There used to be the old Herman Click School for some of those old people, and then they had converted that into a third-party self-insurer, which was Creative Risk Management. And I went over there as controller and became VP of Finance, and we took that company from being in a lot of debt to debt-free, and then we ended up selling that off to Lincoln National. And then Lincoln National turned around and was going to sell that off to a subsidiary in California. And they weren't going to move too many people with them. And if they did, it was, I didn't know anybody out in Sacramento and stuff like that. So I got this offer from the controller at the city of Warren to come there and work for him as assistant controller. Rick Fox asked me. And I said, it's the best offer I've heard so far. So I ended up going over there. And that's where I've been for the last 18 years. I was at Creative Risk Core Source for 12 years, public accounting for 12 years, and the last 18 at the city of Warren.
I see. And within the city of Warren, maybe give us an idea of what tasks or different responsibilities you've had over those 18 years. That's extensive, but I mean, give us some kind of idea of what you might have been responsible for. Or...
Well, we've done a lot of things there at the city of Warren. We built that new building. I was in charge of the finances for that new building, of getting the thing paid, and sometimes Mayor Fultz doesn't like it because it doesn't have a basement, but we got it up there and we got it in pretty good shape, and it works pretty good most of the time. I've done a little bit of work with the pension. I've done a lot of work with when we switched over to the 401A plan from the pension plan, we had to get people rolled over into the plan and get them we offered them rollovers for time of service and age and stuff like that, where they had a choice of rolling or staying with the old pension plan. I work with a lot of the retirees, or the people that are going to retire, getting their benefits in line, and they're setting up their payment plan and stuff like that as they go forward. There's a lot of different things that I do. Like we're involved with the DDA on a regular basis, trying to keep them straight and get their lately there's a lot of growth coming into Warren, a lot of manufacturing and stuff like that. They're all looking for tax breaks, either through the DDA or Brownfield or TIFA or whatever. And so we're dealing with. We had a couple of those today. We bought some property when we were expanding that city complex and stuff like that. I was involved in all that stuff too. And then, of course, you always got your day-to-day accounting business that you're doing there, you know, with different funds and, you know, journal entries and that stuff.
Okay, all right. You know, I know that, just in conversation with board members, one of the concerns is that in Harrison Township, this is a department, this department, our accounting department, is in essence a department of three. We've got this financial position, as well as someone who does payables, and primarily payables, and someone who primarily does payroll. But all of those other functions fall, you know, onto this finance director position. And I know there's a list, and because it's been a point of concern, it may be worthwhile to go through that list, I think.
I have a,
Do you mind?
no, well, I have this copy, would you like me to hand it over to?
Yeah, that's okay too. Yeah, I guess that's one of the questions is, I think because maybe the city of Warren certainly doesn't have less work than than the township of Harrison, but there's a concern that perhaps within a community of that size, maybe, you know, you oversee the big stuff and someone else isn't handling that. So I don't know if it's worth going down the list and say, yep, I do these, or no, I've never done this before.
So this was compiled by our ex-finance director, and he said to ask whoever the new finance director if they do these items.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
I didn't.
Oh, yeah, here. You can have,
Here, I've got it.
yeah. 2 copies.
Okay. So, for example, BSNA software, currently Warren does not utilize BSNA, is that correct, or they do?
Warren does not use BSNA software for their accounting system. They use it for their assessing, and the treasurer's office uses it for their tax collections,
I see.
and the water department is using it for their collection of bills too, so.
Are you familiar with BSNA, or have you worked on it?
I work a little bit with it, not as much as, you know, the accounting system at Warren is IDC. So BSNA has been in over 10, 15 years ago and offered us a package. At the time, the powers be thought it was a little too high, so they stuck with the IDC stuff.
Okay.
Is it all pretty comparable? Is it all pretty comparable, the interface? I mean, we are talking about
Well,
accounting.
they you know, our computer people can write programs to bring them between each other and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so, I don't know, I've never done BSNA accounting.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Grants, CDBG, federal, state grants, have you ever been in a position to monitor or have to report on those?
Yes, right now, we have a number of grants. We have drug court grants that I oversee, that are filed on a quarterly basis. In fact, I just filed 2 yesterday.
Okay.
One for a State of Michigan scale grant, one for the SAMHSA grant it's a federal grant. And they're mainly reimbursing the city court system for, to keep drug addicts, reform drug addicts and get them back on their feet and back on the street. It's surprising what you see in that, you know, the drugs really rot people's teeth, you know, and I never knew that until I started working with this stuff, that, you know, these dentist bills are, you know, and the government would rather pay that, rather pay your prescriptions than incarcerate these people because it costs more money. And,
Yeah.
and so we're doing that on a, yeah, like I said, I just did them yesterday for the quarter.
Okay, fair enough. We, the prior finance director handled insurance, generally the interface, primarily say with our liability carrier. So if something occurs, there's a claim with a vehicle, that sort of thing. So administering and handling claims with the insurance carrier, is that something you have done or you do, or?
Well, I don't do it on a daily basis. Like we talked with Mr. Huth over here, he's familiar with Mr. Easter, and Phil Easter handles most of the insurance claims for the city of Warren. When we did have the flood last year, the big flood, I was involved in in the FEMA side of it and getting, you know, the bills paid and getting the stuff recorded and getting it over to FEMA and getting them to bless it and stuff like that. But on a day-to-day basis, Phil would be handling the claim on a car or something like that.
Okay, all right. The next section, excuse me, regarding finance, entering journal entries, income statements, preparing and amending the annual budget. You know, and I don't need to read each line
Right,
to you,
yeah.
but give us, maybe if you could, take a minute to take a look at some of those items and see if that appears to be something that you have done, or you've done in the past, or you do now, or you don't do.
Journal entries, we do journal entries on a regular basis, everybody does.
Okay,
You know, do I write a number of them a day? No. Do I write some? Yes. You know, it depends on the situation. Monthly income statements, we prepare for the mayor a monthly budget, budget to actual, based on the percentages for payroll and stuff like that, so he can have a look at where we are, and so we can have a look at where we are too. And, yeah, so. The annual budget is handled by our budget director. I have some input on that. Like today, the DDA director called me and said, you know, what's our bond payment for next year? So I give her that. Well, what should I put in for this category or something? What should I do for this? And stuff like that. So we're hands-on most of the time on most of that stuff.
okay,
Prepare audit work papers. You know, the whole department is involved with that, because when the auditors come in, they're looking for a lot of different things, and like, if they got questions on DDA, they got questions on land, they're usually coming to me for that. You know, if it's, we have an accounting supervisor, and usually the day-to-day cash journals and stuff like that is handled through her, but
okay. Payroll, have you been involved with payroll preparation, maybe payroll taxes, those kinds of things?
Yes, you know, I do payroll taxes on the side for my daughter
Okay,
and stuff like that, so I'm doing 941s on a quarterly basis. I'm doing, you know, the state unemployment return,
1028.
the W-2s, the 1099s for her. I've done, you know, if there's a problem at the city, I get involved there too and try to help out, but yes, I have done.
Okay, fair
940s.
enough. And then there's,
State stuff, is that where you're going now?
well, I was just taking a look, I was just, bank reconciliation, working with the pension fund,
Yep.
county drain bonds and that sort of thing. Those are all tasks, so the payments to the county or to the Public Works Office for, you know, the bond payments on all the drain work for the interceptor and that's something that our prior finance director handled. And
Well, it's funny that back when I was in my CPA days, I worked for a company by the name of Ed Olenichek, and he did all the county drain audits.
Okay.
So I used to be out there on a regular basis on that side of it. So,
Yeah.
you know, seeing that the payments were coming in and the costs were correct on the projects that they were doing at the time, but that was 30 years ago. But yes, I worked with some of it, yes.
Okay. And then we kind of talked a little bit about, unless there's questions, it sounded like you'd had experience preparing some of the IRS paperwork. Maybe if we go down to some of the things, excuse me, that are related to the state things,
The F-65 is a big one, yeah, I've worked on that for different years and stuff like that. I did parts of it this year, the 401A and the pension part of it and stuff like that.
okay, and the CVTRS, I think that's the revenue sharing.
Yep, we have revenue sharing.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
You know, and we have to report on it and stuff like that.
All right. The MIOSHA, any reporting to MIOSHA, has that ever been something that you've been responsible for?
No,
No? Okay, fair enough. And I think that last one deals with maybe bonds.
No, it cheats
that's
old
giving
checks, it's,
Oh, no, yeah. What is that, what is that?
it's checks that haven't been cashed, that are turned over to the state for
Okay.
holding after, to get them off your books. So, because every so often, some Freedom of Information guy comes through and wants to see all your old checks, and he tries to find out the addresses of these people, and he sends them a letter saying he's found some money for them, and if they give him 50%, he'll give them the other 50%, and stuff like that. So it's easier to get them off your books than to have to continue to report them and give them to these guys that are hunting around every so often.
So you're familiar with that process, or?
Yes, sir.
It's something you've done, or something someone else does?
Well, it's a matter of just listing them out and sending them to the state along with a check, you know, for the money, and then the state sits on and holds the money, and then they keep it.
Yeah, all right. Okay, on the second page, there's that first a section really dealing with more HR matters. Our finance director has historically been a little bit different than maybe some others, and again, I'm sure that's because we're a smaller municipality. So the health insurance, life insurance, vision, the dental, workers' comp, some of those issues tend to fall in that office, and at least in part on the responsibility of the finance director. Is that something you've worked with?
Well, with CoreSource and Creative Risk Management, they were a third-party self-insurer. They handled workers' comp for a lot of large companies around the state of Michigan. We handled health insurance. That's how, one of the reasons I met a lot of the people I knew at Warren, because we ran the health insurance for the city of Warren.
I see.
When they went away from Blue Cross, and then they ended up going back here when Blue Cross started seeing that there was, we at Creative Risk, we could cut the fee because you'd only pay for what you used. And Blue Cross was just charging them a regular premium and stuff like that. And then at Creative Risk, one of our biggest moneymakers and clients was the road commissions for the state of Michigan. We had every road commission for liability insurance in the state except for Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb, because they were too big to be covered. So anytime there was a lawsuit or somebody got killed on a highway or somebody got hurt on a highway, we knew there was going to be a lawsuit someday, so we would have our investigators go out and get pictures of the thing and stuff like that, and we'd have it all set for them when the lawsuit did come in.
I see, okay. Now, there's some, for example, because we have some folks that qualify for it or qualify for the need, we have a random drug screen program. So we work with a third party to help us administer that, but that's one of those things that's fallen within the finance director position. Or, you know, annual forms to retirees, the Are You Still Alive forms, you know, that sort of thing. So I don't think I have to ask you, are you capable of preparing a letter and sending it to retirees? But I think, at least from comments of some of the board members, there's a concern to say, are you aware or recognizing the fact that if maybe in a larger municipality, well, I've got someone in a department that says, hey, make sure you send out those letters, that sort of falls more in an immediate sense as your responsibility, not to say someone can't help you,
Right.
but there's probably a lot more little tasks and a lot less help to accomplish these tasks. And I think, at least I believe, this board is asking of you, are you aware of that and prepared for that if we offered you
Yes.
the position?
Yes, but what we have right now is, with our retirees, with the city of Warren, it's a 50% copay on your dental. So we send them letters once a year with my name on it. I don't type the letters, but the girls up front, and the checks come into me, and we record them, that, you know, their payments and stuff like that. Some people pay on a yearly basis, some people pay on a quarterly basis, depending on their ability. So I'm aware of them.
Okay, all right, fair enough. We have our own pension plan. We're not part of MERS. So there is some need as time goes on maybe to address issues of calculating years of service, final average compensation, preparing that sort of stuff, information for the actuary so that the annual actuarial report can be prepared. Is that something you've done or are familiar with, or you do?
I've worked on some of the pension reports. Most of our pension stuff is done by Comerica Bank.
Okay.
And we just take their financial statements and their income from a certain investment and stuff like that, and write it to a journal entry and post it to our IDC accounting system.
I see.
Yeah, we got rid of them as a third-party administrator, because
Comerica?
it was costing too much for what they were getting.
I understand, yeah. It's-
To be honest, you know, you're probably a bigger plan than ours, but they were getting
Well,
a nice percentage for basically doing what a normal manager would do at Smith Barney. You know,
yeah.
all these firms now, Smith Barney, Loomis Sales, are all pretty much doing the same function as Comerica Bank.
Yeah. Well,
Each his own.
what grinds me is, these money managers come in, they lose your money, and then the city's got to reimburse them again.
Right.
Make the pension plan whole again and stuff like that.
It's a good gig.
I'm right with you there.
Yeah.
The best part is you still get to pay them,
Yeah.
right? If you're
Okay.
losing your money, you still have to pay
They
'em.
still expect to get their percentage, right?
Yeah. And then the last item was SMART. So, we do receive funding from SMART for our local van or shuttle program, and there's reporting and, contractual obligations that we have there. Have you ever worked with that, or is that a responsibility you have or have had?
No, I have not worked, we got SMART in the city of Warren. I've never worked with it.
Yeah, different
I'm
department.
sure I can learn it, and
Okay. All right, good enough. And I think at least,
want this.
and again, I didn't want to speak for the board, but I know that was some of the questions that we had during our prior deliberations, and since then I've heard, so I don't know if there's other questions that board members have, but if not, I'll move on to some other questions.
Have you been involved in union negotiations? We didn't ask John, but I know we asked him.
No, I've sat in on a couple of union negotiations, but mainly the human resources people have handled that, and then our attorneys and stuff like that.
Yeah, we mean more so from, hey, here's what we're thinking, how much does that cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
yeah.
right. For example, from when we prepared for Act 312 arbitration with the firefighters, maybe a year or 2 years ago, as we met with our attorney, he said, well, I need these statistics, and I need this data. So from that perspective, our finance director didn't necessarily negotiate contracts, but he was in a role to give us information and say, well, here's an option, or this is what this benefit
Right.
costs, or if you want to increase disability insurance to this level, the carrier said it'll cost this much.
Usually you got an Excel program where you can change a percentage, or you can drop a new figure in there that would carry it right through, and that's what we do on our stuff there, If you come in and say, hey, how much is a 2% raise gonna cost us, over the next 2 years, or 2-1-1 or whatever.
Yeah.
We can drop it into a system, and we can punch it out for you.
All right,
Fairly
fair enough.
Quick basis.
All right. What would you describe as your strength? What are you good at, or what sets you apart from your peers? What is the strength you have?
Well, I try to be friendly with everybody. I try to get along with people. I try to get the most out of people, either if they're working for me, or I try to help out the people that are above me, like you guys, the board members and stuff like that. You guys are the guys out there in the public. I don't need the credit. You guys need the credit. You guys need the votes, you need that stuff.
Okay.
So, I'll do my job and help you out. And I might also tell you that I don't like what you're thinking on something like that, but that's just me.
Fair enough. If we were to go to, say, the office, the literal facility or office where you work, and take a couple of your peers out to lunch, without you, of course, and say, well, what do you guys think Dennis's strengths are? What's good about Dennis? What do you think your peers would say about you?
Well, I think they would say that I can help them with most of their problems that they have. Everybody comes on a different day with a different problem. And the thing is to get them through it, to get them, you know, to get it straightened out and move forward.
Okay. If we had a big job to do, something new, maybe a report we weren't aware of, you know, we've got a fellow who retired and, we find out on Wednesday that we've got a report due on Friday. We say, we need you to do it. Would you prefer, brewing a pot of coffee and locking yourself in the corner office, or slicing it into 10 pieces and dispersing it a bunch of other staff members that might be available? Which would you prefer and why?
Well, what I would prefer is, that happened to me a few years ago, about 3 years ago. They dumped our gentleman who was handling the 457 for the city, walked out the door. So we had 4 different companies that we were dealing with. So I had to first learn how to get into the systems, all these systems, and then to start making, we got a payroll on Thursday, and there ain't nobody there to do it, so guess what? I got to do it. And then once you learn it, then you can start passing it off to other people, to, pieces here, pieces there. Like I've passed a lot of the payroll stuff for the 457, the bi-weekly stuff, back down to one of our accountant ones, because she gets the printouts, she fills out the wire work and sends it down to the treasurer's office to make the transfers. But you got to know it first, and then you're the backup when she goes on vacation or something like that. So
I see. What is an area that you're not real strong on? What's a weak point that you have, or a shortcoming that maybe you wish you were better at?
I probably told you that already, that I sometimes tell people that I don't like what they're doing when they think it's the best idea in the world.
I gotcha.
But just to follow up on that,
Yep.
In a situation where that happens, we say, no, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're,
Well, I'm on board.
yeah.
But, hey, I'm a team player, but, I'll tell you what I think first of all. And then after that, if that's the way we're going, that's the way we're going.
Sure. And then if I were to take that same group of folks out to lunch the next week and leave you behind, and for all the folks that you sit with at work, and I say, hey, what's something that you're really not crazy about Dennis? What do you think your peers would say about you?
I don't know. They might, I know some of our people that work for us are, hey, this account's off 93 cents. Well, in the big picture, that don't mean nothing. Don't mean nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
You want to balance it, okay, fine, but don't waste 5 hours on 15 cents or something like that. Let's, the material stuff, let's get it right. Let's move on.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough.
We had that problem here for a long time.
What's that? 15 cents?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's immaterial. It's, no, we gotta, no, it's fine. It's 15 cents. The auditor will say that's fine.
Yeah.
In your bag.
Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. That's-
Well,
The auditor really doesn't like you reaching
No, I
in your
imagine
pocket
that's
with
not the,
15 cents. but
right?